This is my buddy Rick. When I started getting involved in gas and oil stuff, I said, these gas and oil people, they're not like normal friends. All you do is get in cars and go to the Capitol and go to meetings. You don't do Christmas cookies or dinners. I have to retract that statement. He's become one of my best friends, probably saved my life a few times in very big crises, including finishing writing a book. We've traveled the country, luckily not the world, because we would both jump out of the airplane if we were going to Australia together. We can't handle that much time, but these people turn into great friends. And this is Rick, and he's got some stuff to tell you.
Thanks for coming out. We're glad to be here and tell you. Now, I'm going to talk to you about health because mine's shot. Okay, now first, I'll start with mine, and then we'll go on to livestock, because I know a lot of people are involved in livestock and they need to know what goes on with everything, because if it happens to livestock and humans, it happens to everything. And I mean everything. They started drilling on us in 1995. We were the first federal drilling unit in Garfield County. We were the first 10-acre bottom hole spacing. They drilled the first hole a half mile east of me in 1995. They drilled the first 4 holes on us in 1997. Since then, we've got 19 holes on the property. There's 100 holes within a mile of my house. A compressor plant a mile and a quarter from my house. Another water treatment facility right next door to it. Another compressor plant another quarter mile north of the house. North of that compressor plant, another one a quarter of a mile north of it. I'd say with me, I started having problems around 1998 through 2000, dizzy spells, headaches, sinus problems, severe pain. I was diagnosed with different types of arthritis, carpal tunnel syndrome, all bogus. Then in 2003, late 2003, they started evaporation pits. They have a pit with, I'm sure you saw the picture of the pits with the water in them, and then they put a floating irrigation system on top of it and evaporate the water. They were evaporating the water 60, 70 feet in the air with a 12-foot tall containment wall only on the east and north sides, nothing south and west, which is where I was at. They had one pit at the end of my driveway, 1 1/4 mile to the east, 1 1/4 mile to the west. Thus, I'm surrounded. I'd come home every night to a greasy stain inside my house, on my windows, on my doors, on all my equipment. Hell on me. They started this in late 2003. By September of 2004, I was getting pretty hard to get around. October 2004, my body shut down. Now, when I say shut down, I couldn't reach my face to eat. I couldn't walk. I couldn't drive. I couldn't get around. I lost all rotation in every joint of my body at the same time. Imagine your bicep is pulling your arm up. Your tricep is pulling your arm down at the same time. Then your arm swells up. My hands have been as big as softballs, with the fingers stretched out like that and still touching each other. You don't know whether it's the tendons, the muscle, the bone, or the skin stretching, which hurts. Well, it'll stay there a couple days, then it'll move to this hand. Be there a couple days, week or so, and it'll move into this leg, that leg, both legs, up your back. It's debilitating. It's scary. Drives you crazy. The only way I got mobile was I had to soak in a bathtub 3 times a day with 2 cups baking soda and 2 cups Epsom salts, just as hot as you can possibly stand it. And I can probably stand a little more than most because I'd turn bright red and get in there because I want to move. I want to be able to get out of my house and get off that hill. After 2-3 weeks, I could finally move enough to drive again. I went and I was seeing a chiropractor, thought, maybe, because they kept telling me I had arthritis. Could be a pinched nerve or something. He couldn't do anything about it. His physical therapist couldn't do anything about it. So I got to my acupuncturist, and I don't know if you guys believe in acupuncture and homeopathic medicine, but I think it's most excellent. After the first 30 minutes, she comes back in the room to rotate the needles, if anyone's familiar with acupuncture. She told me that I'd been poisoned. It was gas. She didn't know if it was liquid or airborne, but suggested I get a tox screen done. So I contacted my primary physician, and I set up an appointment for a tox screen. That became kind of an argument. They wanted to do a complete physical and told me after they found out what they wanted to, they'd call me in a couple weeks and let me know if they thought I needed a tox screen. And I told them, no, that's what I set the appointment for. I think we'll do that, blood test. Because my doctor, let me explain, my doctor had retired. So I was dealing with a physician that took over his practice. And I finally convinced them to take 8 vials of blood. They were going to check for red and white blood cell, rheumatoid markers, diabetic, and inflammatory markers. Okay, let's see, did I get that right? I have a little bit of a problem here. So we got inflammatory markers, red and white blood cell, diabetic, and rheumatoid. Okay, then they took 4 vials of blood for that. Then they took 4 more for the tox screens, but they didn't know where there was a tox lab. Now this was on a Thursday. Now, I need to go back just a little. I get a little confused here. When I set the appointment 2 weeks before that, 2 weeks prior to that, I'd got a letter from them because they were my primary care. And I get this letter every 3 months or so that said, don't go to the ER if you have a problem. Come see us. We have our own lab, our own x-ray. We'll save you some money. Okay? When I called to set the appointment, they told me I hadn't been in about a year and a half. So instead of paying my usual $42 for the doctor, come with a $100 bill. So I did, and then they wanted to argue about it. Finally going to take the blood, and then I went home, and that afternoon my acupuncturist called, and she'd located a tox lab through another doctor in Aspen. So I called the doctor's office back. You know, they told me if there's an emergency, give them a call. You know, they didn't return the call. Called them again Friday. They didn't return the call. Monday, same thing. Tuesday afternoon, they finally called me back. I told the nurse practitioner that I'd found a tox lab. I'd give them the phone number, because you call the phone number and then they give you a web page and you order a test kit. And he told me it was too late. And I said, what do you mean it's too late? He said, well, we called the Colorado Department of Health. They told us because you don't work in the industry, there's no way you could be contaminated, to discard the blood. So they threw it all in the trash. They didn't even run the tests they were supposed to run. Boy, was I happy. So I argued with them a little more, got them to order the test kit. It come in 2 weeks later. I went down, they took 2 very small vials of blood, mailed it off to Texas. 6 weeks later, those tests come back, and just a minute, my eyes have gone all to hell. They came back, and I have benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, NP-xylene, O-xylene, styrene, that's what they make plastic out of, and 6 kinds of triethylmethylbenzene in my blood. But they gave me 5 years medical records because they couldn't find the other 45 years at the time, 40 years. So they told me to find a new doctor. They didn't know anything about those chemicals, and they didn't want to learn. So I go to my acupuncturist. Well, I did. I can't afford it anymore. I haven't worked in 6 years. But it got worse. I mean, I have through my own research and talking to other people at Theo Coburn, and then what I have is I have peripheral neuropathy is what the pain is that rotates through my body. I don't really have arthritis. Now, when you have peripheral neuropathy, what that indicates is permanent brain damage. It's irreversible. Now, these are the chemicals that will show up in your blood. Most of the chemicals that they used to frack with, the proprietary ones, will go through your body in 48 to 72 hours, completely through your body, and do their damage and leave. No way to be tested for them. 2 reasons, they're gone. Second is they won't tell you what they are, so how do you get a test? You got to know what you're looking for before you can look. Now, the gas in our area is coal bed methane. So there's several heavy metals that are involved, and that's just a given because it is coal bed methane. So The water's salty, but those are arsenic, strychnine, mercury, and other heavy metals. Now, that's my health. I survive. That's about it. I don't look like a 200-pound man, do I? I'm lucky to hit 140 anymore. I can't exert myself for more than an hour. 2 if I push real hard. But if I push real hard, I may not move for a couple weeks till I soak in that bathtub quite a bit and figure out how to go get about 200 needles stuck in me. Now, that's me. Hell, I understand Jerry Garcia, the Grateful Dead, okay? I'm already dead, but I'm just grateful. Excuse me? That I'm allowed the time to talk to you. Now we'll talk about livestock. And you can make a pretty good living off livestock. I used to raise Appaloosa horses. I still have a few. What's left of them, I've got 5 left, geldings and 2 studs. My mares started slipping colts in 1998. Now when I say slipping a colt, abortion. 5 to 7 months they'd catch 2 horses. 1 live, 1 very small and dead. This went on for a few years. 2007, by 2007 I'd moved most of my horses off. By 2005, 2006 they were gone. What's the use of having them? 2004 I got a new mare. Figured maybe I'd have a little better luck with her. She hadn't been in the gas. Got a good looking stud out of her. Got a nice, I call him Shadow. He's a big black, well, shadow gray with black double ring spots. I raise leopard appies, so they all have a blood ring to prove their blood. Full appy, I don't believe in quarter horse crossing with that appy. But I don't know if he's worth a damn. Now, in 2007, we brought a friend of mine's mares up. We brought 5 mares up, had them all checked first to make sure they were open, ready to conceive. I needed to test my stallions. I had 4 stallions. I need to know if they're any good or if I have to get rid of them like I did the mares. We rotated a different stud out every 30 days. Kept the mares on 40 acres on the east end of my property. After 8 months' time, we got 1 mare to conceive. The next spring, she had a good-looking, gray, happy stallion. Oh, he's a good-looking son of a bitch. Quartered up good, pardon my language. Quartered up good, conformation was good. He looked good, but he was a high flanker. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that term, or high baller. It means he didn't drop his gonads out of his gut. They stayed up inside. That's what we thought. At 15 months, that colt died. Well, you got to find out why. So we did an autopsy on him. He had no gonads. He had no testicles. In other words, he had no testes, no testosterone gland. He didn't have that. It was gone. He didn't have any cords to attach that to the gonads. There was no reproductive organs in this horse. I have a few horses still alive, but I don't try to breed anymore. They're just studs and a gelding. I got 1 gelding. When he walks now with his hind legs, he only steps about a foot, maybe a foot and a half with his hind legs, and that's a little hard because his front legs are going 3 feet at a time. When he picks them up, he goes out of place at the hock. When he sets it down, it snaps back in. You can hear it from 100 feet away. Sounds like, well, it's scary. He sleeps standing up. He doesn't roll anymore to straighten his back out or tone in his mouth. That's how a horse straightens out their muscles in their back, keeps their muscles in good, where everything's aligned when they have a problem. He can't do that. Now, soon, I figure probably this winter, he's probably going to go down on me, and he's not going to be able to get back up. So he'll have to get the bullet. Now, he don't deserve that bullet. Now, that's where I am today with the horses. I've got a little the horse I usually ride, good looking little strawberry appy. Now when I say little, I don't have a horse under 15 and a half hands, 1,200 pounds. That's what I consider a little horse. Some might call that a big horse. I call that a little horse because One of my stallions, little man, 17 and a half hands, 1,800 pounds. I call him little man because he looks just like his daddy, except his daddy was only 15 hands. But his daddy at 22 years old would age out as a 3-year-old. Okay, when you age a horse, you go by teeth to 7 years old. When their wolf teeth come in or completely in and are finally rounded, I don't float their mouth. I'm not going to sell a smooth mouth horse. You'll have a little problem with them fighting the bit until those teeth are in, but hey, that's no problem. That's life. I had a little trouble with my wisdom teeth when they come in too, but I didn't take a file to them. Anyway, Henri was the fastest horse I've ever owned. I've outrun a world champion, 3-year world champion barrel racer with him coming straight up out of a place called Little Box Canyon out of the flat tops. It's 12% grade up 1.5 miles. I gave that horse 10-length head start, beat him by probably 12 to the top. Henri wasn't even breathing hard. He can't go 100 yards now without being winded. That's walking. I don't even try to ride him. I don't think he could handle it. I mean, hell, that's my life. I'm happiest when I'm in that saddle. Can't get in the saddle no more. And then there's goats. Oh, that's a real serious problem. 2003 through today, they started stillborns. Now, I have a billy goat that my father advised me to shoot because he throw 3 kids out of a bad doe, 4 out of a good one. Now, he told me to shoot him because a goat only has 2 teats. They can support 3 kids, though. 4 is a little rough. So he told me to shoot the goat because it's too rough on my does, but I'm not going to do that. People in the area called him the Golden Nubian because he was huge, gorgeous, and he was a producer, and that's what you want. But when 3 out of 4 are born dead, and then a few months after they're born, they end up with abscesses in their lymph node glands. That bursts, and instead of oozing, normally a pus would be green or yellow if it's an infection. These ooze a nasty, brown, almost black colored stuff. Once that ooze has come out, they don't last much longer. They die. Since then, in 2007, I sold 26 of my does. Tried to get them away from the air. Thought they'd do better. They haven't done much better. Most of them have died off now. Continuous stillbirths. I kept 3. Last winter I lost 7 kids. 2 does. A billy goat, that Golden Nubian. And a couple withers. Because I can't sell them. Used to eat them. Used to milk them. Used to sell them to people to eat them. Milk them. Use them for pack goats. But I'm a little different than an oil company. I have a conscience. If it makes me sick, I'm not going to sell it to somebody because I'm not going to make them sick, and I'm not going to lie to them and tell them, oh yeah, you can eat that goat. He's just a gas factory, but you'll be fine. But be careful, if he's on the barbecue, he might blow up because he's got the same chemicals in him I do. And the way I explain that is, you saw the pictures earlier, the condensate tanks. I am a walking, talking condensate tank. Now, last year when I lost the 7 kids, the one doe had 4. 2 were born dead. 6 hours later, another one's dead. 6 hours later, another one's dead. 12 hours after that, she's dead. She had a mass in her left udder as big as 2 fists. Imagine a mass that big in an udder that should only be this wide and that long, and full of milk, not cancer. This year, her sister, which is my last doe I have left that still conceives, she had 3 kids. 2 were pretty healthy. One was real small, puny, but it died after 12 hours because the other 2 wouldn't let it eat because, well, she's got a mass in her right udder now. So she only has milk on one side, and one teat is only going to support 2 kids. Well, that was one billy, one doe. Now, we all know how, it's pretty easy to tell a billy from a doe, the old two-hole test. I don't want to insult anybody, but 2-hole test, Well, in 2 weeks' time, the doe grew horns 2.5 inches long. In 2 weeks. Usually at 6 weeks, you debud them, you can barely feel the horn on the top of their head. At 2 months old, I noticed something a little different. So I'm following around trying to get a better look between her hind legs. This doe grew a set of gonads and a little penis. She changed. Now, what that leads to is, earlier Wes talked, and so did Tara, about Theo Coburn. She runs a nonprofit over in Paonia called the TDEX Group. And there's things in these chemicals called endocrine disruptors. They disrupt the hormones, the genes, and the DNA, and not just in the animals. Okay? It's scary. But that is what happens in the production of natural gas when they do it wrong. Okay, the EVAP pits is what I think poisoned me. The company told me that it was because they left the inspection cover on one of the condensate tanks open for 24 hours. Of course, that was in November, late November, December of 2004. Damn, that's 2 months after I got my blood test. Did that gas go back in time? You know, because people have been trying to do time travel for years. Maybe they got something there. We'll go back. We'll send that gas back. But they, I gave them a copy of my blood test to the oil company in January 2005. Still nothing, no answers, no results, no help. Even though they advertised on the radio and in articles in the paper that when there's a health problem, we mitigate the problem and do all we can for the sick people. As you can tell, they're doing all they can for me, which is absolutely nothing. Now, I need to leave, but I can't leave. I can't give them animals a bullet. So I'm staying until they all die, and then I'll get out as soon as I can. But y'all need to be careful. Now, I brought some pictures that I'm sure I didn't see the whole first presentation, but there's pictures of these EVAP pits up here that are spraying 60, 70 feet in the air. Imagine coming to your front gate and be standing in a cloud of that stuff every day for 3 years. Coming home every night and it's coming in your house. I got a partner that, well, a lot of my friends, even my daughter, asked, I sleep with the radio on all night. And they wonder why. Would you rather listen to a tank going all night long, knowing full well that you're getting a little more methane every day? I got another picture over here of a tank next to a barn, and you'll see a little bit of gas coming out of the top of it. It's a mixture of methane and produced water. It's a daily occurrence around my house. And that's how the gas companies take care of you. Thank you.